everybody, in this video we are going to talk about 9 reasons why it still makes sense to buy music production gear even in this economy, why you might be spending too much money for all the wrong reasons, and we will discuss the best rationalization strategies for relentless gear acquisition syndrome.
Reason number 1. You actually want to make music with it.
Before the advent of computer-based music production, people had no choice but to acquire a respectable collection of gear so they could get stuff going. Today you can do all this on a 2019 smart fridge CPU, so we need to narrow down the gear investments that both satisfy your gas and help you advance your workflow. There are basically 2 possible routes you can go down. Try to replace DAWs with all kinds of meme gear and vintage stuff, which is A, relatable, B, expensive, and C, kind of futile, because DAWs are pretty good at being DAWs, or find meaningful complements that iron out their weaknesses. DAWs provide you with a sheer unlimited wealth of pro sounds, more tracks than you will ever need, and super clean mixing and processing facilities, so it makes a lot of sense to add weirdly limited, highly specialized, obscenely high-end, characterful, dirty and/or odd stuff. The other problem with DAWs is that their UIs tend to be generic and uninspiring. Standard MIDI keyboards are for normies, so there are again 2 possible strategies. Go all in on expressive controllers you actually have to practice on, or do the fun thing, buy tons of knobby analog gear and pretend it was an informed decision. That being said, the most essential perk of having access to a pension fund worth of gear is the sobering realization that you no longer have any excuses for making crap music.
Reason number 2. You deserve it.
You have disposable income, you want the thing, just go for it. Chances are you've spent a lot of money on things that are a lot worse in the past.
Reason number 3. You bought the wrong gear in the past.
One person's bad gear is another one's treasure. Just because a piece of music technology has a cult-like following doesn't mean that it's the right one for you. Being able to connect with the philosophy of a manufacturer or specific gear concept on an almost spiritual level doesn't necessarily mean that it will help you make great music, and the often mind-boggling amount of stuff many gear aficionados plow through are a clear indicator that the only way to find your personal holy grail is tedious, expensive and often decades-long trial and terror. You could, of course, sell all the gear you don't use, but always remember it's not hoarding if your shit is cool.
Reason number 4. You need something to show on social media.
Being a musician or producer, especially in electronic genres, used to be a safe haven for people who want to be left to their own devices. Never leave the studio and only be judged by the quality of your creative output, hide behind artistic alter egos, and even if you had to show up at a live performance or industry event, all kinds of self-medication were socially acceptable. Unfortunately, times have changed profoundly, and the social media-driven dystopian dumpster fire we live in requires you to either be effortlessly and 4K video-ready attractive, provide a strange combination of charisma and stupidity, spam your bubble with an endless stream of flawless educational virtuoso content, or fuel the consumerism of your peers by delivering a steady flow of vintage DSLR lens-tinted gear-noodling videos. Feel free to combine 2 or more of these things for greater effect, but I assume most of you will stick to the latter, or even better, get a proper job.
Reason number 5. It doesn't matter anymore anyway.
We had 7 mono sims, 5 flight cases of vintage polys, a multi-gigabyte folder full of plugins, a big shelf packed with drum machines, and a whole galaxy of multicolored groove boxes, walkers, pocket operators, Raspberry Pi sims, and also a rack of 19-inch antiques, many pedals, a case of Eurorack, a crate of cables, and 24 power adapters. Not that we needed all this to make music, but once you get locked in a serious gear collection, the tendency is to push it as far as you can.
Reason number 6. It's not
Although gear acquisition syndrome is often described as addiction-like behavior, its side effects like a compromised credit score and chronic back pain caused by bad ergonomics are comparably mellow. However, the biggest risk factor of being a gas victim is that other people will think that you're kind of weird. Feel free to embrace this, but just in case you want to pretend to be a valuable member of society, here are some safe use strategies for gear nerds. Never mention any of the incredibly important details of a specific device. Act like music technology is just a nice little hobby instead of the all-consuming obsession it obviously is. Practice talking about normal people stuff like sports, cars or the weather in front of the mirror until you can pull it off without throwing up, and make sure to have some kind of smart storage solution or secret gear cave so close friends, partners and family don't call for an urgently needed intervention. If you are into Eurorack, forget all this, you're doomed.
Reason number 7. It won't have a negative effect on your kids.
The beautiful thing about being a gas-riddled gear Luddite is that your offspring is more or less safe from this vice, unless they are even more of a nerd than you are. In many producer circles, hardware-based workflows have been frowned upon for at least 20 years. Generating revenue from music production is getting harder by the second, and the rise of AI has annihilated the already slim chance of making it in the business. Zoomers are not dumb. They want to eat and have a place to sleep, so they are no longer susceptible to the vague promise of being a successful producer or electronic musician that fueled the gas of former generations. Just in case, they're getting so good at actually playing these instruments that people are paying to see them live. That's an entirely different thing. The gear will pay for itself, leading us to
Reason number 8. It's easy to make gear tax deductible.
AudioPilz does not provide tax, legal or accounting advice. This video has been prepared for informational purposes only, and you should consult your own bubble of music technology equipment fanatics before engaging in any transaction. If you actually start a business just to serve your gear addiction, you need to seek professional help, and I'm not referring to a tax consultant.
Reason number 9. It's safer and cheaper than other midlife crisis behavior.
A wise man once said, if you can afford a truck, you can afford a synthesizer. And it's true. Even the most ridiculous gear purchases, well, most of them are dwarfed by other attempts to compensate for the bottomless void inside, be it golf, top-shelf Pokemon cards or buying groceries at Whole Foods. What is more, even an obviously unhealthy gear fixation comes with a substantially lower number of fatalities than wingsuit flights, motorsports and free climbing, unless you were part of the 90s black metal scene or worked as a recording engineer for Johnny Paycheck. Electronic music, on the other hand, is mostly safe as long as you stay hydrated. Hope you enjoyed this little Dadaist motivational video for distinguished gear procurement fiends. I assume we all know that everything you need for music production is acoustic treatment, decent monitors, a clean signal path and some inspiration, but as long as you're still in your no pun intended self-gaslighting phase, feel free to click one of the links below before you order stuff to support the channel at no additional cost for you. Like, subscribe and enjoy a huge library of videos, tracks, jams, sample packs and other AudioPilz and Bad Gear content over at Patreon. Thanks for watching and see you next time. Thanks to all my patrons for supporting the channel, and welcome to the monthly Shoutout. If you can tell which plugin I'm using here, you are a true nerd. Tier 4.
Shoutout, different creatures, take me Calvin, Goddamn Chamber, DJ Diagram, Tonal Defender, Coriolis, Marinus Elephant.
Tier 6.
Don't go make me kill son. I feel that's for
Again, thank you so much for supporting the channel. See you next month.